Hello and welcome to this episode of Creations Past. It's a little bit chaotic because somebody got home and I forgot to do a thing. So I am setting up a microphone right now, which I feel like goes very well with our topic for today, which is Viriditas. Setting yourself up to get into the flow and to be able to manage yourself in the flow and everything else. I am learning how to go with the flow right now as I am plugging and unplugging things. I am Charlie. I am a non-binary sci-fi fantasy writer, and I am also a board member for Creation Spirituality Communities, and will also be doing the service this weekend for the Interfaith Worship Experience, which you can find out more about at cscommunities.org. This weekend, our topic is panentheism, and we're going to be doing a wonderful meditation to connect ourselves to spirit. We're going to be doing a wonderful meditation to connect ourselves to spirit, and then discussing how we find God in all things and all things in God. It's going to be an amazing weekend, and I hope to see some of you there. I have blathered enough. I am not alone today. I am joined by the wonderful Glory, who is graciously putting up with all of my chaos, which I have all of the chaotic spirit today. Like, the power of chaos is definitely within me. And there's one other person here with us, but I have to get into the headphones before he arrives, or there will be noises. Alrighty. I am plugged in.
Okay.
You may speak.
All right.
Hello, Brian.
And Brian, my husband, is also here with us.
Hello, Brian and et al.
Hello.
Alrighty. I honestly feel like this is one of the best ways to introduce this topic today, because we really are talking about finding that flow, finding that energy, and not letting yourself lose it, even when things knock you off course or make you veer a little bit away from where you think you were going. And I just kind of had a chance to demonstrate that a little bit.
I think there is definitely something to be said for learning to become more comfortable with uncertainty.
Yes.
It will help not only roll with the punches, as my father used to say, but also to welcome chaos more than just when we want a little chaos or spontaneity, but also even when it's maybe not necessarily planned for. Oh my God, I love it when people plan for to be spontaneous. And I'm like, how do you think this will work? And they're absolutely blind to, if it's really spontaneous, buckle up, buttercup, because no, you cannot plan for. You just sort of, you grab that tiger by the tail and you go for a ride.
And you just run as long as you can. So today's topic, if you saw the big word and you're like, I don't speak Latin, what is this big? What is this word?
Versus my response, Latin is dead, right?
Viriditas is a word that keeps coming up in a lot of the circles that I run around in, and is simply the Latin word for greenness. It is the itas at the end is the ending that you add to a word to mean quality of. Viridis is green. Viriditas is the quality of greenness that it is that you're talking about. And this comes up a lot with the popularity of Hildegard of Bingen, who used this word throughout her writing in a lot of unexpected ways. She used it, one, for what it sounds like when she discusses nature. A lot of her poems and songs about nature, she is constantly using this term, the greenness of nature. But also in her writings on health, and her writings on spirituality, she talks about making sure that we are always monitoring our greenness, that we're always monitoring our viriditas, that we are keeping ourselves green, that we're not drying ourselves out, that we are not desiccating ourselves, that we are not, as I often like to say, becoming the walking dead, that we are not just draining the life out of ourselves. And the other reason this word is popping up in a lot of these circles is she would very cheekily use it in her Latin text instead of the word veritas, which means truth. So even when she would be quoting a Latin text that would have the word veritas in it, she would write Viriditas, and she would actually spell it slightly different. She would spell it Veri. So she mixed the two words together,
Mm-hmm.
and started talking about this wisdom that we can get from learning to kind of roll with life. This wisdom that we can develop, the strength that we can have just by learning to roll with life and getting into the flow and moving with the flow as much as we can. And since yeah, I'm going to keep saying it. I cannot bring myself to put any respect on his name. Since Cardinal Ratzinger, when he was Pope, elevated Hildegard to being a doctor of the church, a lot more people have started reading her work than had before, because she now has the official imprimatur of the Roman Catholic Church that everything that she wrote is good for learning, is universally good to learn from. Which, if you've ever wondered what a doctor of the church means, that's basically what it means. Is there is nothing in their writing that is specific to the location that they lived or the order that they belong to, that it's universal, that everyone can learn from their writings in their totality. And since I can only guess through either angelic possession or trying to get rid of the nightmares, like the popes that actually allowed St. Francis to start his order, made her a doctor of the church. A lot more people are encountering this word because it is impossible to understand her and her writing without understanding this relationship to greenness, because it gets covered up in the translations of her writing. And it really shows what this word means for her. If you're reading the Skivas or any of the other works that in translation, you'll see so often this word refresh, refreshing, freshness, cleanness, which I've often found weird when I see it translated as cleanness or cleanliness, because no, that's bringing in connotations. That's not what she was talking about. It is the very vitality of life that I think we all want, that we all want to be connected to, that we all have this dream of just being there, getting past the depression, the anxiety, the worry of our lives, and just living this vibrance that almost, I would say probably 90% of our entertainment is about characters discovering this in themselves and learning to have that just vivacious life about them. So much of our popular music is embodying this idea of this vivacious life.
Tons of sci-fi, the endearing human spirit, as they like to call it in sci-fi, is pretty much that very thing.
Well, I actually have a totally different reference that you reminded me of Auntie Mame. Like, talk about another secret Catholic icon.
Yes.
But literally, that is Auntie Mame's refrain: live, live, live. Life's a banquet, and most poor suckers are starving to death. Although in the book she doesn't say suckers. But anyway, I'm trying not to get you in trouble. But like, Auntie Mame is very much of go live, go out there. Life is messy. And I love that Auntie Mame is very much reminds everybody all the time that when you are really living life, it is messy as hell. And that is how it is supposed to be. Hence, what is greenness? If you have ever tried to grow plants or walked even in nature, It is messy. It is chaotic. It doesn't care about boundaries. It is there. It is vitality. It is true life. And that means that it doesn't care that, oh, I'm allowed to grow in this spot in the field versus this spot in the forest. It tries everything. It is the scatter shot of life, and that real life is messy as hell. And if your life is not messy, then you're not doing it right. And because like you're like, oh, everybody wants this, is like, no, they don't. They might think they do, but they do not, because people like things nice and neat and in little boxes and predictable, and life is not predictable.
But those characters that are often so aspirational, it's often,
Yeah.
and it's almost always female embodied in these stories, almost
Yes.
exclusively, because in our really toxic patriarchal system, men are very often encouraged to cut themselves off from this sort of vivacious vitality because of the need to be stoic. Men don't feel their emotions, so they're never happy. It's why every time they take a picture, they always have to blue steel. Like, are your eyebrows furrowed just properly?
I blame too much shoes and socks.
You would.
What?
He blames too much shoes and socks.
They'd be more, if more men ran around barefoot, they would be more connected to the earth.
And they would have more nematodes in their system.
Yeah.
Look, if you're going to go there, I will go there with you.
So, when we see this, like, one of my go-to images for this is in one of my, like, I don't even know if it's a guilty pleasure movie or just one of my favorite movies, because I just enjoy so much about it and the book it's based on. But the aunties in Practical Magic.
Yes. Oh, I love them.
They're just living their life. They're living their best life. And they are just dancing through the chaos. Like
right,
nothing but
chocolate for breakfast, because when you're sad, that is absolutely 1000% what you should be doing. You should be eating chocolate for breakfast. Which, by the way, I would like to point out that the aunties from Practical Magic are not so secretly Jewish.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are not aware of that. But there is essentially a Jewish form of green witchery that is a very natural part of the witchiness, and that is intertwined, and it is a sort of survivalist, thrivist kind of greenness that I just wanted to point out. And now Alice Hoffman has done an entire book series, so you can really explore this entire family. What I originally found so attractive about the book Practical Magic, I listened to it as an audio book many decades ago, back before I was conceived, and it appealed to me because it was the same kind of witchiness that my mother raised me in, and I had never encountered anyone else because we lived in North Mississippi and there were no other Jews, let alone female Jews. So there was none of this sort of thriving green witchery or cottage witchery. And so finally to come across a book with it was like revolutionary in my life. But you too can experience all of my upbringing as a child by reading the Alice Hoffman series.
I love her work.
I do too.
Just be careful of, what's the book called? The Dove Bearers. It will destroy you. The book that takes place on Masada.
Yes.
The Dove Whispers, I think.
Well, I mean specifically her Practical Magic series.
Yeah. Oh, I'm a fan of.
I feel like you'll be like, okay,
yeah,
frankly, my personal opinion, the Practical Magic series will destroy you as well.
Oh yeah.
Like I definitely felt, but like it's a good kind of destruction. It's kind of a, well, if you're destroyed by it, it's the parts that weren't necessary in you in the first place.
They're such good. I love her stuff so much, and I love that you brought up musicals, because when trying to capture this feeling, musicals very often will have this moment, and it is the popular song from that musical. Like you can kind of figure out which is the Viriditas song, because it's either the number 1 or number 2 favorite song from that musical. Defying Gravity from Wicked, for example, is this very literal Viriditas moment, because she is literally embracing her greenness. Like it is very literal in this. And having read some stuff by the people that worked behind it, I think there may be something quite literal to that was something that was in their minds when they wrote it.
Point out, Anti-Mame is also a book by Patrick Dennis. I would like to just have everybody read it. My mother paid me $20 to read it when I was in middle school, and bribed me. She's like, $20, and I will get you the movie. Actually, there's two. Both back then, there was both the non-musical and the musical, and she offered to get me both, which she did, and it changed my life because that was what she wanted. She saw me as a middle schooler as staid and predictable and sort of already downtrodden by life, and she was like, no. And her idea was, let me give you Anti-Mame. Let me give you this woman to live in your head for the rest of your life and to remind you to go live. And also to not let middle-class, wealthier people like truly suck all the life out of you. Because Anti-Mame has wonderful solutions to that. I would just like to point out. Also, Bo will live in my heart forever. When will the universe send me my own Bo? Where's my Beauregard? My Beauregard Jackson Pickett Burnside. He is out there somewhere. When will the universe send him to me?
So hello to everyone in chat. Hello, Carrie. Hello, CB. Hello, Tom. I'm probably missing some people because
Jules
we've
is
been
here now.
talking a lot.
They're talking cereal.
I do love that Carrie has immediately gone to download the audiobook of Practical Magic. It for me is one of those like life-changing books in my life because when I read it, I was kind of at that point of when I talk about like I had a dark past and nobody would like me from high school. Like it was at that moment in my life where it's like, do I become that alt-right edgelord that my upbringing wanted me to be, or do I actually break out of this and become something else? That's when this book came into my life on the wings of angels, because it was like, oh no, I want to be the aunties. Like this is the life trajectory that I want. And it helped free me from a lot of that. And yes, where was it? CB also pointed out that One More Day from Les Mis. Yeah, a lot of musicals have this moment in them, and it's very good to latch onto because you can feel it. We cannot not react to music. Like it's in our DNA. We have evolved with music. There's a very good chance that the first communications we did before verbalizing speech was sing to each other. And that through these whistles and these tones, we learned to respond to each other. And from that, language developed. We don't know for sure, but there's a lot of interesting evidence for that basically the animal calls developed along this path. But it is so ingrained in us that if you're having a hard time connecting to any of this, in a lot of ways it's and I hate to bring it up, but for my generation, it is, even if somebody my age has never seen a musical in their life, I can say it's Seasons of Love from Rent. Because I don't think you can be a Gen Xer and have escaped Rent at all. I don't think that that's humanly possible. But by listening to that song, any of those songs that we've mentioned, you can really feel what we're talking about. And so what's important for us to do then is start learning when we're veering away from it. When are we going into the dry place, and what does the dry place look like? One thing for me that I am fairly lucky about is my depression, which is one of the main things that pulls me away from this vitality, is very visceral. And I will notice our house, can't really see it in the chair that I have behind me, but I love red. So there's a lot of red around us and in the decoration. And I will start noticing that it doesn't look as bright. Like there is a dampening sensation to color in my experience. Like my vision doesn't go black and white. I don't suddenly become colorblind, but things just don't have that luster to them. There's a dullness, and that's usually for me my first notification that I'm veering off. The I don't want to go to work today feeling, which is really bad because I'm self-employed and I'm my own boss and I picked this job because it's what I love doing. So when I have when I start turning into Randall from Clerks, oh, I'm in the dry place because I chose this. Like this has not been imposed upon me. And I feel that way even before I was in the position that I'm in now. I loved being a salesman. I love being able to talk to people and not the idea of making them leave with the most expensive thing, but leave with the right thing, the thing that's going to make them feel good. Like when I was selling clothes that made them might not be the most fashionable thing, but the thing that they put on and were like, yeah, that's me, you know, that
yes. Power panties.
Yeah, matching people to their clothes, you know. And when I would wake up and be like, I just don't want to go to work today. Oh, we're heading into the dry place. Now, if you have a job that you hate, that's probably not going to be a good sign for you. Because not all of us have the fortune to be working at a job that we actually enjoy. And I've had some of those too. But it's when you find yourself starting to self-select out of enjoyment. And
I think of it as, like, for me, it's often when I feel stuck or stifled, suffocating. I feel like I can't breathe in my own life, and that there gets to be fewer and fewer spaces in my life where I feel free to breathe, easy breathing. And that for me is a sign, it's a flag. There's this feeling of like just stifling, of that I am not free to spread out and to just be myself without censorship. And I don't mean other people are telling me, oh, Glory, you're taking up too much space. That, although that is pretty toxic, but more of where I'm self-censoring. Oh, I'm not going to be, my full self. I'm just going to sort of fade into the background in this location. I don't want to venture out. I don't want to take risks. I just want to get through this into the next thing, or so that then I can leave. Like when you are biding time rather than living.
Yes.
For me, that is a flag for myself. Also, when I hear other people saying that they're essentially biding time. Oh God, anybody who's biding time. Oh, I'm just biding time till I can get a divorce. Oh, honey, you are already miserable and you are making everyone else around you miserable, whether you realize it or not. And they never realize it because they're blinding themselves to their own misery. So they sure as hell are blinding themselves to everyone else's misery.
Yeah, it's one of those things that it's so true that it's a cliche. But yeah, when there's a big difference between living and existing. And if you feel like you're just existing, you are in the dry place.
Mm-hmm.
And
sorry, go on.
That could be for a couple different reasons. And I see burnout being mentioned in the chat. And yeah, burnout is very much running into the dry place. But it could be for quite a few reasons. You could have dammed up the flow within you. My entry into the dry place is all of my anxiety just dams up the flow. I love doing certain things. Like if you saw, I put a short up on my main channel over at Seed, the Charlie Dorset channel today. I love making videos. I miss making videos. My dysphoria and other anxieties have built a wall between me and that flow. I dammed it up. It was blocked off. And every time I thought about making a video, it was just paralysis. Just entering that place of, fight, flight, or freeze. Just, I just can't make a video right now. I just can't do this. And I would move on. And it caused me to stop doing something that I love. And we'll talk about when we get to fixing things. If you saw the short, I found a loophole. But
Yes.
And those are important. But sometimes we wall ourselves off and dam the flow of from getting to us. Sometimes we run ashore. Back when I had originally started working online, I was writing for 9 different blogs. I was recording 7 different podcasts, one of which was daily. So that's basically recording just all the time. I was either recording or writing something or watching something for review. Like everything was work.
Mm-hmm.
And I just ran ashore. Like, yeah, I love talking about media. Yeah, I love doing media criticism. But I just ran so far on shore that I couldn't even see where the river was anymore. Because, well, this seems like the right place to go. People are reading the stuff. People are listening to the shows. It feels like hell, but this must be right. Like at some point, this will become easy, right? You just start lying to yourself and tricking yourself into it. And you're just running further and further away from where that flow is, from where that river is that sustains you. And that's where I find a lot of people getting into burnout is they've convinced themselves these are the things I have to do if I'm going to do this thing. And just running literally away from the river. They think they're in the river, but they've actually run away from it. And that can be really, really tricksy. And this is also something I have experienced, and I don't think we talk about enough. Just being so damn stubborn, you don't drink. You're literally sitting there with the spring of eternal life flowing in front of you, and you're just like, no. Like, it's there. You could participate in the things that bring you joy. You could do the thing. And for whatever reason, because trust me, I have a myriad of reasons that I have done this in the past. And they're not the same. I can't classify them into when this particular kind of situation. But you're just stubborn. Just no. Yeah, I could go hang out with my friends and that would be a lot of fun, but no.
So one of the other things I've also noticed, both in myself as well as in other members of my family, is, how do I say this with kindness? Hoarding. And it's not necessarily holding on to things. It's everything. It is, I don't know. So rather than make a decision, I'll just hold on to it or I'll store it. So I'll see this in myself as well as my own family and many other people, particularly people with ADHD. When we get overwhelmed, it's like I can't make another decision. We're just going to put it on the back burner. We're going to store it and we'll come back to it later. Only later never comes until crisis. And now it is later.
Yep.
But nevertheless, so this hoarding mentality. And so here's the problem with the hoarding. You are interrupting the flow because things can't flow in and out of your life. And so you're literally damming the river that flows through your own life. And the universe does not like that. And more trouble and difficulties and crises come, the more you interrupt the flow of the universe. So I mean that about money. I mean that about things. I mean that about favors and interactions with people. So what I see is people are overwhelmed. I'm counting myself here. I just want you to know I'm totally roasting myself. I'm overwhelmed. I've got too much going on. I have a toxic boss or multiple bosses that are toxic. And I am just surrounded by terrible people. And so I don't go out anymore. I'm not going out to socialize with my friends and to go be there for them because I'm so overwhelmed. I'm hoarding my own time for myself. And I'm not finding a balance. I'm not even looking for a balance, quite honestly, because I'm waiting to not feel so exhausted and worn weary by the world. And that is not how we get refreshed. Even though, look, I am talking about myself. It is instinctive to do this. And it is one of those things I'm here to say. It's like normally my instincts are okay, but when I am seriously stressed, my instincts go wonky and they actually become incredibly toxic and metastasize into cancerous ideas. Like, I'm not going to go out. I'm not going to go see people. I'm not going to go do the things that bring me joy. Like, okay, I know none of y'all are like this except me and maybe Brian. One of the things that makes me feel good in life is to go to any store on the planet and just meander. And I'm going to appreciate the art of the labels, and I'm going to read labels, and I'm going to look at all the products. And what's really happening is I'm literally cataloging all these products into my head because it brings me comfort and joy. But later when you're like, oh, hey, if only I could find crispy crunchy sauce, but there's nowhere in town. I'm like, oh, I know where it is. I saw it 3 months ago. It's at Big Lots. Yes. And they're like, but I went to Big Lots and I didn't see it. Did you go to the lawn department? No, why would I go look at lawn department? Because those people do not know how to stack things. And the crispy crunchy sauce is among the flamingos. Don't ask me why. I don't know why, but that is how it is. And like that brings me joy, but also just the meandering. You know how other people like to meander through prairies and wildflowers? I like to do it at stores. Literally, I'll go to like Claire's Boutique. I don't have pierced ears, y'all. I have never had pierced ears in my life. And my sister and my mother have both had their ears pierced multiple times. And they always heal up literally within 3 hours of taking their earrings out to go wash them. They will close back up and they can never get them back in. Because of our Ehlers-Danlos, we have magical healing properties. But nevertheless, so I don't have pierced ears. All Claire's is pierced ears. But I love to go and I love to look at all the pretty shinies. It makes me happy. I mean, they have other non-pierced ear things, but you know, those are trash. I just like to go look at all the things. It makes me happy inside. Do I go when I'm super stressed and I'm surrounded by toxic people? Do I go? No, I'll go later when I'm in the good mood. Baby, you will be in a good mood if you go to Claire's afterwards. You are waiting to feel in a good mood before you go to Claire's, but Claire's is how you feel in a good mood. Like, you see where I'm talking about the instinct is off. It's like 3 degrees off, and now we're in a bad place. That's always going to keep leading me the wrong place. So again, that is the dry place. That is the place where no new things grow, where there's nothing being nurtured. There's nothing nurtured. I'm not nurturing myself because I'm like in lockdown.
And I feel like it's important to just also state that these things can happen to relationships too. This is what people are really talking about when they say that that the relationship is a third person that's there. If you are hoarding all of your gripes and not actually sharing them, you're starting to dam up the flow of that relationship. If you are no longer doing the things that you as a couple like to do with each other, like this dryness is what causes most relationships to end. We're together now. I guess we don't have to go on dates anymore. No. You still need to feed the relationship. You still need to keep alive the things that brought you together in the first place.
What I love is couples who no longer introduce themselves to each other. As if somehow we are not ever evolving creatures with new likes and interests separate from each other. And it's like on dates, especially early in a relationship, you're really introducing yourself to someone else, of showing various facets of yourself and your interests. And we're married. We've been married 5 years. Why would we do that again? Like, because you have new interests and you are showing another person the way you see the world, so they can see the world through your eyes. Because again, that is inspiring. That is vibrant. To see the world through other people's eyes. It's literally why we read books. literally why we read stories, to go experience other lives and other worlds through a writer's viewpoint. We want to go live other lives without actually having to be other people. And it is fun and inspiring and exciting. Why would you not want that for your romantic partner or any relationship at all?
And a lot of what Gloria is talking about here is when you notice that you're in that dry place, the worst thing you can do is think, okay, well, everything will be better when I feel better. Like I will get to, I'm just going to hoard that to me, when I'm just dug into that dry place, that's when that hoarding instinct really kicks in for me. Like, well, I don't want people to see how depressed I am, so I'm just going to hang out with people when I'm feeling better.
Right.
I'm not going to go to that concert or listen to that music because I won't really enjoy it that much because I'm feeling bad. I won't watch my favorite movies because I'm just feeling too bad to appreciate them.
Mm-hmm.
No.
See, yeah, that's when my chaos instincts will kick in harder, because it's like a nice spice, you know, that little zip in the dish that kind of wakes your palate up. It's kind of that same thing where I'll just start doing little random things, something interesting, just to add a little zip to kind of nudge somebody out of a dry place, whether it's self or others, you know, because that's what it is. It's like the instinct is to dig in, to hunker down.
Like a toad in a hole.
Like a toad in a hole.
You can't get me out. I'm stuck here because I'm safe. And it's like, but are you? Because you're about to drown, little toad.
Yeah, little mild shock will get that toad hopping right out of that hole real quick. Just like a little zip.
Like, oh, I had an inappropriate thought right there.
What was that?
Like a little finger up the butt. They'll jump right out.
That'll also get them out of there.
You're not wrong.
Oh, I had a wicked childhood. Anyway.
Somebody's been frog gigging. Oh, our southern is showing.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Anyway,
Coffee does. Yeah. There we go. I think that's the right button. Yeah, like adding chocolate to, adding a little coffee to chocolate. It brings that flavor out.
It does.
And it really just
those
gives
lovely
a little
caramel type flavors, those darker flavors.
Yeah.
It complements while being a 1 degree different, a little off, a little different.
Yeah. Or even a little like cinnamon or something. It gives it just a little kick.
A little vodka in with a tomato sauce, or some kind of neutral flavored. I mean, you can use a flavored alcohol if it will actually make it better, like a wine or something. But there are certain flavors in tomatoes that are only alcohol soluble. You will never be able to taste them if there's not just a little bit of alcohol added. So yeah, those little things. And learning, if you are in that place, and trust me, I have lived in that place far too long on many occasions, because again, stubborn. When I'm talking about stubborn people, realize again, self reads here, but you have to find those little oases, those little things that will bring you out. Like, I don't think Jungian psychology is good for a lot of things as far as therapy and stuff like that goes. But one of the things that has always stuck with me that Jung discovered when he got into a dry place was going back to something he loved in childhood, finding that thing that brought him so much joy. And so he bought a parcel of land where he could just move rocks around, because he liked moving rocks around and building little rock forts and stuff. So he just bought himself some land where he could just move rocks around and just would go out there and push his rocks around and get back in touch with who he was as a child and kind of reconnect to that place of just happiness inside him. And while I don't think everybody needs to move rocks around, Brian might need to dig holes. He loves digging.
Okay.
But finding those things that just connect you instantly back. Like there's a really trash movie, and I'm going to say this, and every time I bring it up, people make fun of me because it is a trash movie. And you know this because the animation is terrible, and the action superstar hero in it is voiced by John Ritter. But it brings me instantly back to my childhood. And that's the movie Flight of Dragons, which is somehow based off of the Peter Dickinson book. And I don't know how, other than art style, because it's anyway. But it is a trash kids movie. It is not well made. It is not well done. It has an oddly proficient voice cast, like as far as like finding people that were really good at acting to be in this really weird, not well written story. But this was something that I loved, and it was very hard for me to get my parents to let me have access to fantasy fiction because we were a very conservative Christian home. And they loved John Ritter. So this was one of the few VHS tapes I was actually able to own as a child. And so it has this magical happy place for me.
Mm-hmm.
And the same with like the Transformers the movie, which I was also able to get because reasons. And so these instantly kind of reconnect me to me. And are these little oasis moments. There's certain songs from my youth that will do this, that will give me this little oasis in my day. Having kimchi in the house. I grew up, my best friend was Korean, and I spent a lot of time over at his house. And just the smell of Korean food. Like it's really weird because I am one of the whitest white people in the world, but because of the fraught nature of my family life, my happy memories are over at my friends' houses from my childhood. So all of those scent memories that bring me back to happy childhood are the smells of Korean food or Indian food, specifically like Punjabi Indian food or Iranian food, or, you know, all of these other flavors, because these were the friends that I had. And so I would go over to their house, and that's where my happy memories were. So having those brought into the house, just like we're making kimchi again in the house because I was starting to enter that dry place again. So we're making kimchi, and yeah, it kind of smells like a dirty litter box when you are making it, like the initial like fermenting stages. It's not happy. It's not, but there's something weird that like sends me back into my childhood of going over to my best friend's house. And I remember the first time I walked in asking, "Do you all have a cat?" And he was like, "No, that's dinner." And I was like, what? And he explained, like, these are the pots that are making the kimchi, and that he would open the fridge and pull out, and here's what we're actually going to eat, but it takes time for it to ferment. And I was like, but it smells like what? And then he was just like, all right, I'm going to get a piece out. So, you know, and I tried it, and like, it was magic and fireworks, and I knew I was home. Like, just, yes. And so those things transport me back to that happy place and help me to find that little respite on the way back. So learning to find those places for you, those little things. And we're talking about oases here. The little things that you can do. Making peanut butter cookies. Because I was allowed as a kid to make peanut butter cookies. I wasn't allowed to make any of the other cookies because chocolate chips were expensive and peanut butter wasn't. So, the times, how they change. So having the ability to do that really does help. And being able to find ways for us to have those little mini breaks. Yeah. Yeah, Lord, like for CB, the Lord of the Dance, the Dangerous Games. Yeah. And the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
It's so important for us to have these things, because we will lie to ourselves and we will tell ourselves, oh no, I'll be good. I will just force march myself through the desert and get back to the river. It'll be fun. No, you're not. No, you're already dehydrated.
You're going to live in the desert for 40 years. How will you reconstruct your life then? What if you knew for a fact you will not make it to the river for 40 years? What will you do? How will you live so that you do not give up the will to live or go unalive other people? How will you reconstruct your life?
You learn to hit a rock with a staff and have water come out.
You learn to make your own oases.
Yep.
So, what is that for you? Like, for me, definitely binging Doctor Who a lot. Um, like to the point my when I had Cassie back then, and my dachshund just would relax, like all her body, like all her skin would just become like just you could literally hold her up by her skin. Her skin would relax so much when she'd hear the Doctor Who theme song because she knew, okay, mommy's about to be fine. Mommy's going to relax and pet me lots, and there will be food, because Doctor Who definitely was my happy place in trying times. And like everybody needs to have those things. What do you do if you're not going to be able to get to the river for years?
And don't lie to yourself.
Dance party.
Yeah.
And don't lie to yourself and be like, no, it's not that far away.
Yeah, like I could handle it for a couple months. I'll be all right. I'll just white knuckle it. Like, no, you won't. You will not make it.
Like, I always think of that George's father from Seinfeld just screaming "Serenity now," because I feel like we get to this place where we've gotten so dry and so disconnected that literally screaming "Serenity now," that's not going to fix anything. You're so far gone already. But it is easy to get to that place and to get into that dryness. So find a way to get you there, the little things that are going to get you there. So we're going to take a quick break to stretch our legs and check on things around. And when we come back, we will be discussing how to actually refresh your energy, not just to pour new stuff in, but to actually clean yourself out and have you actually get on the right path.
Exorcise the demons.
Yes, I'm actually going to be talking about that because Bruce Chilton says some magic things. So we are going to be right back. I'm going to pull up. I looked around at a lot of different timers, but I really love this one. So I will also be taking recommendations for other 10-minute timers that we can use for these breaks. But I just love this one so much. So we are going to be using it right now. So go ahead, stretch your legs, get yourself something to drink, whatever you need to do. We will be back in 10 minutes. And we're back. I forgot about the jingle bells. And we summoned Alora by using her timer. So now I know whenever I need more Laura in my life, I just need to use one of Laura's timers and make her spontaneously appear. Hello, Laura. How are you doing today? So I hope everyone had a good break, got a good stretch in. I have been oddly mobile the last couple days, and I actually got up and walked around a little bit and feel weird that I still feel good. I mean, I like it. I want it to continue, but it does feel a little strange. I'm not gonna lie. So if I can find my mouse, I'll see, there you are. If we can continue on from where we were, once you've realized that you're in the dry place and you have figured out the oases that you're going to skip through on your way back to being in a good place. And I feel like I should say nothing that we're saying in here is medical advice. There is a difference between being dried out and being clinically depressed. And as somebody who has suffered from clinical depression, I can give you a lot of meditations that can cut the edge, but I cannot give you a meditation that will fix you. Beware of people that say that your clinical depression can be fixed through simple practices. Very often they will need some sort of intervention. It may be that you need to develop some sort of cognitive behavioral practice that will help fix whatever is going wrong in the system. You may need medication. I just want to say, as we're talking about reconnecting and getting back in, if you have clinical depression, do see a professional. I speak the voice of experience here.
Peppermint oil will not solve your problems.
No matter how much you want it to. So do bear that in mind. So I don't know what's going on with my StreamYard right now.
Uh-oh.
It has decided to start changing size randomly. There we go. I don't know what was going on. StreamYard and I have had some interesting relationships drama lately, and it not wanting to do things. So, but things seem to be back in working order. But if I do disappear for a second, I might have gotten kicked out of the studio, and I might have to make my way back in. So, just thought I would give you the warning, because I don't know what that was, but it was weird. So, when you are on your way back, it is very important for you to realize that you need to refresh your system and not just pour new on. This is why a lot of that folk wisdom that I know I got from my parents and community of just count your blessings doesn't work. When you need a river to go through an area to irrigate it and give it life, that little bitty water can, that's not an oasis, and that's not gonna fix it. You have to be able to blow out the system. You have to be able to clear things out before you can really get into the flow again. And that's one of the reasons why I brought up cognitive behavioral techniques, because they do help a lot. There may be things that you are doing that are causing you to get into the bad place, to get into the dry place. There may be modes of thinking that you have adopted, certain erroneous self-image issues that you have developed over time that you need to just literally work on in clearing that out to get there. But even if it's just a minor, not to the level of clinical depression, you still need to refresh yourself and clean out what is there. So what does that mean? Since we're using a lot of plant analogies here and river analogies, this is either changing the potting soil or dredging the river. If you are holding on to a grievance, that is going to block the flow. And I mean holding on. You know what, that just, you're mad, you're seething, you won't say anything or do anything about it.
So this is where forgiveness, and when you delve into the depths of forgiveness, a lot of it is actually yourself letting go.
And forgiving yourself.
It's not so much the um, forgiving the other person is not is more just the surface act. It's actually you yourself letting it go and allowing it to be in the past and gone and not holding it in the present still.
Yeah, that's a lot of what I find in my own life and with a lot of people that I have worked with over the years. It's that holding on. And this is why I like the flow analogy and why we keep coming back to the flow analogy, because if you're holding on, it's not going to go away. If you can learn to just loosen that grip a little bit, the flow will carry some of that away. And it's not, again, not the cliche of, well, time heals all wounds. No, time does not. A good antiseptic and a good medicine and good bandage and triage heals all
If you've
wounds.
ever met somebody who's holding a grudge, obviously time has not healed that wound.
And so finding ways to learn to let go. And sometimes, and this is where it's really important and why therapy is so vitally important, even if it's as simple as finding somebody to do second body technique with, if you're familiar with the Buddhist practice of just having having an anamkara, someone that you can just talk to about everything. And I mean everything. So that you can find what it is you're holding on to. Because sometimes, so I don't want to get into like too deep into the darkness, but let's for simplicity's say, simplifying my backstory down a little bit, I have been fairly open about the fact that I was abused when I was in elementary school by a teacher. What I was holding on to was not the actions that were done to me. It was not even how they made me feel. It's how mad I was that I didn't do anything about it. And I was a child. I would have been about 7, 8 years old when this happened. And so the idea that I, other than actually telling an adult, which is something I did not do, I don't know what I could have done, but I was mad at myself, not her, not at the system that allowed that to continue happening. I was mad at myself all those for years, for decades after this happened. And it was that anger that was holding me back. And yeah, I'm not going to say that there's not some trauma there when I think about what happened and all that. But the actual thing that was causing the blockage in my system was that anger. The thing that everybody, once I came clean and told them what happened, were like, oh, so you're mad at her. So learn to let go of that anger. And it's like, I don't have anger there. There's a kind of a white hot rage, which is a different emotion than anger. But that's not what was holding me back. It was not even shame, because that was the next thing was, is it shame? You need to have somebody to talk through all of the steps to find out what it is that you're holding on to. I was mad at myself for not being more outspoken. I was mad at myself for not taking actions that a child probably could not have done. I don't know how I could have saved myself in this situation with what was going on. But that's what I was mad at. And until you get to that place, that this is the actual wound, the actual open wound, because it hurt my self-esteem, it hurt my self-image. I was a failure as a human being because I did not take action. I had to find that spot. And that took years of therapy. That took years of talking to someone who kept pointing out the obvious. Well, is it this? Is it that? Have you let go of this? And like none of that worked. It was finding the right thing. I've had arguments with friends. I remember one of my best friends in the universe that you'll often hear me just refer to her simply as my second sister, because we're not blood related, but we family. We got into a huge argument, like to the point where like blows were thrown. Like it got bad. And the whole argument was somehow we had convinced each other that we had heard the other person say something that they hadn't said. But because we instantly went to anger, we didn't talk it out, which was weird for us. And it was weird for us because there was a third party manipulating the situation and helping to make sure that we were each seeing the wrong side of the story, because he wanted this relationship to end. But we went immediately to anger. We went right to this wrathful, vengeful place. And that stopped everything. Our relationship was, for all intents and purposes, over. And it wasn't until when, I mean, we ran into each other. She just lost it and started yelling at me. And I can't believe you said, fill in the blank. And that was the first time either one of us actually stated what we were mad about.
Yeah.
And it was, wait. That's not what I said at all. Wait, what? You have to refresh the system. You don't know what you're holding on to that you may have misunderstood, that you may have sublimated into a very dark place, so that you're having feelings that are causing this blockage and causing this dryness, but that aren't the actual thing that you think you're mad at. You have to blow out the system. You have to completely purge. And everyone's going to find their own techniques for this. Everyone's going to find things that help them do this kind of cleansing, help them do this kind of refresh. Some things that I have found is having that tearjerker movie, that catharsis movie, that I don't know why, but every time I cry like a child with a skint knee, like deep wailing belly sobs. And like whatever I'm going through suddenly gets written over this film. And I just let it all out. I hate that I can't say let it go anymore, because I just hear Idina Menzel in the back of my head. Like I love Frozen, but I hate Frozen. Like it's a complicated relationship there. But because sometimes you just got to blow the cobwebs out. The Greeks really understood this, and we get like a smidgen of this when we discuss Greek tragedies when we're in school, and then we're not taught to do this in our regular life. Finding that thing that will bring you catharsis. Like when I was younger and we were all down in the pit moshing. That was catharsis. That was generational catharsis. We had a lot of rage. We had a lot of alienation. We had a lot of feelings we were working through that we didn't have the words for, because most of us were not taught this emotional language to have the emotional intelligence necessary to talk about these things. So we would go to a place where they played really loud percussive music and we beat each other up as dancing and go home and feel better.
90s, y'all.
Yeah. Oh, the 90s were wilder than anyone.
I knew people who got broken limbs from those mosh pits because they were that violent.
Mm-hmm.
But also, quite honestly, these were people who hadn't quite discovered BDSM yet, too.
They were rage circles. Like they were a bunch of people working out that adolescent rage, that teenage angst that every generation has and needs to have vents for. I'm not saying we found the best way to vent it. I don't think that we did. But
No, but I am reminded of what was that horror movie Midsummer, where they're all tripping balls, and they're all mirroring that emotion with our main character. And there's a reason this particular technique, with or without hallucinogens, is used in various religious or spiritual societies or communities. And that is because when a person is already under duress, oppression, one of the very early symptoms of this is a numbing experience. And that is where they're very lightly dissociating from their emotional experience. But the emotions are still there and they're still happening. And it is a disorienting feeling, sensation, to have your emotions happening in your brain, but where you're cerebrally cut off from feeling the full feel, but you can still feel them happening as if they're happening in another room that's still part of you. It's a very disorienting experience. And so one of the ways to temporarily take some of the steam off of that, the pressure, is when you're in a safe space with a group who is also similarly oppressed or under duress, for everyone to essentially kind of let some of that pressure off together in a safe space where no one person will be singled out, no one person will be criticized for it. Everybody is free to experience the agreed upon feeling and to act it out with each other. But again, no finger pointing and no singling out. So, i.e., it feels safe in a dangerous world. And this has been used for literally thousands of years as a bonding technique, but also as a coping technique. I'm not saying that it's like that functional, but it will keep you from losing your damn mind in the temporary. And so this is what is used. Again, it's not like I'm not trying to say, oh, you should definitely do this or you should definitely not. But it is something people do and that humans will naturally keep convening to do this as a way to, because we feel safer in numbers. All humans are going to feel safer in the kind of numbers that they feel are similar to themselves. Like you two feel angry and you two are feeling the beat and we're now going to mosh ourselves against each other until we feel spent and then we're going to go, get out of the mosh pit. That sort of, like, it's not necessarily that we come from the same socioeconomic or racial or cultural backgrounds. It's just we all feel this way at once. But it is an understandable thing because you've got to let that pressure off of the valve sometimes or it's going to explode at the seams. And that is a kind of destruction of self that, people are afraid of, even though sometimes, to quote one of my best therapists, is it really the end of the world to just fall apart a bit? And I said, it is, because if I fall apart a bit, I'll fall apart entirely. She said, but will you? Or will you still, tomorrow, still pull yourself back together again and call yourself Glory? And I was like, yeah, it will be bad. I won't pull myself together again. I won't be Glory ever again. I will be something else. And she's like, is it bad? Yes, it is. And
I've had this conversation. I know this conversation.
Yeah, and the more I thought about it, the more I thought, is it so bad? And then also sometimes it's just, well, I'm too tired. I'm too tired to pull myself up together and to prevent myself from breaking at the seams. You know what? The world deserves whatever monster I become. But here's the wild thing. This is the monster I have become, y'all. If you are here, you're probably pretty cool with this monster. So as much as when I was younger, I thought the monster I become would become socially intolerable to others. And yet here I am.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of the things that my best therapist ever was trying to get me to understand of it may be that you are trying to prevent becoming the person you were always destined to be. And while you are lighting the flame for that future version of you and are afraid to become it, the future version of you is not afraid to become it. So really, what are you resisting other than the inevitable future of you?
I remember having that conversation with a therapist, and yeah, I also think that this is one of the reasons why mindfulness meditation has become so popular and why so many people find solace in it. Because one, I please always say mindfulness meditation and not just meditation, because there are lots of different kinds of meditation that are not mindfulness meditation. And I'm really concerned that it's going to co-opt and people are going to get locked in. But mindfulness meditation is at its heart just the act of letting go. You're focusing on your breath and just letting go everything else. Thought comes in, you don't hold on to it, you just let it go. You just stay focused on your breath. Emotion comes in, you just let it go. It is one of the safest, and I'm sorry for using a $20 word here, but it's one of the safest kenotic practices that there is. These practices of emptying, of self-emptying. And unfortunately, it's one of the reasons why I use the word kenotic, because people who do a lot of meditation will often talk about the kenosis of this and use this word as if everyone speaks Greek. And
It's a Hellenistic plot.
I just really want to make sure people are exposed to the word so that when you
Every time,
see it,
I'm going to have to
Mhm.
make the commentary. It's a Hellenistic plot.
Oh, it feels like it is sometimes, though.
I
But
mean,
it's
Greeks had some points. Okay, they too were studying humans.
but it is a safe place to do some of this letting go. When you look at classic Stoic meditation, that's what it is. It's imagining that you are a riverbed and all of your thoughts are leaves on the water and just watching them float by. Like it's the same kind of mindfulness technique. It's that technique of letting go. It's not unique to one culture. It's been everywhere. Now, if you really need to dig deep into this, there are practices like in Judaism, you have Avodah Betol and Hitbodedut, which are literally the work of isolation and self-isolation. That's what both of those practices literally translate to, which are literally about letting go of everything. And some more extreme rabbis, when they practiced Avodah Betol, literally had themselves walled off so that no one could talk to them. Like they let go of everything. And that's a little too far for me. But there, a native sweat lodge, for example, is this letting go. It is this place that you're going where everything is going to be poured out and put into you. And I feel very fortunate that having the upbringing that I did have, I had access to these places and people that were able to show this to me. There are safe, if guided through, like you can die in a sweat lodge. Like the heat is intense. And you need somebody there that is very well trained to understand the difference between I feel like I'm dying, which is normal, and oh no, you're actually dying. We need to get you out of here. Like they are intense experiences. But the whole point of them is to empty you out, to bring you everything out of you. You will, all of your tears, all of your trauma, everything will well up in these situations. And many cultures around the world have had rituals that are designed to do this. Our culture, the Western culture, writ large, all of the descendant British colonized cultures, and especially the American culture, because of the Victorian influence on everything that we do, have really adopted this buttoned up, we don't talk about our feelings, we don't talk about our emotions, and have shunned so much of that out of our experience. And we don't learn it, we don't teach it, we don't do it. And you can see the consequences of this having been removed. We don't have these cultural touch points anymore. So it's important for us to find what are those things that are cathartic, that are for us safe, and that allow us to really pour everything out. And just, it can be the scariest thing, especially the first time you do it, to be like, I don't want to be empty. I don't want to let it all go. I don't want to be hollowed out. But you can't get that refill that you're looking for. I know a lot of people here in the chat are Catholic. This is really what Jesus meant when he said you can't put a new wine in an old wineskin. That old wineskin has the flavor and the scent of the old wine. It will flavor it. You have to clean it all out. Like you can't put something new in an old vessel like that. You have to make sure that it's refreshed and cleaned and ready to take the new, or it's just going to be tainted and take on the qualities of the old. So we have to find ways to empty ourselves out and to find that safely. And this is where I wish an internet person could say, just do this. But this is where you really need to find people that you can work with and talk with who know your temperament, who know what will work well for you. Like when I was talking about a sweat lodge, that is, again, something I was very happy to have attended in my youth, to be invited to that. I don't know with my current health situation if that would be safe at all to do.
Good point.
So you need to be finding people that are trustworthy that you can discuss this with, which is, again, why we keep bringing up therapy and therapists, because a good therapist, and look, I'm not an apologist.
There's a lot of bad ones. Yeah.
For the industry. There are a lot of bad ones out there. You need to find a way that you can get yourself to a good one. And there are a lot of ways to do that now through some of the apps that are out there and stuff, to get in touch with somebody and very quickly be like, nope, not for me, and get shuffled to a new person really quickly. There are a lot of ways out there. But you need to find someone that you can talk to that can help you if you don't know how to find that emptiness, to clean yourself out, to find the techniques that work for you. And I'm not saying that if you're one of those people that reads self-help books that they can't be helpful. Like, there are a lot of books out there on cognitive behavioral therapy. And yes, there are some generalized exercises that might really help you out. But from my own experience with therapy, you really need to have a therapist there who can help tailor the work that you're doing to the issues that you are struggling with, that you're working through. And I think that's true with both psychiatric and spiritual issues. It's good to have somebody there that can help you work through and know what is safe, because not all exercises are equally safe for all people. And I don't think enough people are honest and say that. And I often think it's not because they're trying to cover it up. I don't think that they know how dangerous, like, a lodge can be, or some of the, like, prolonged vigils that people go on, or like a pilgrimage. Pilgrimages for me are one of my favorite ways to empty myself out, because they are draining. They are tiring. You're getting up early. You're getting to bed late. You're living this very regimented life, but they're not for everybody. That's a lot of strangers. That's a lot of stuff.
Honestly, amateurs, hypnotherapists, people who go to, let me rephrase that. People who go to hypnotherapy conferences to learn how to do hypnotherapy, but who are not themselves well practiced or experienced, can be very dangerous to
Yes.
those who do not know how to protect themselves from incompetence. So again, there's a lot of bad, and you need to find the good, but you have to be willing to do the work of interviewing a lot of people. And I don't mean a one-time interview, because sometimes I personally have the experience of a therapist will be on their best behavior for the first therapy session, and sometimes even the second therapy session. But I promise you, by the third therapy session, they think they have you. And that's when they show what they really fake, who they really are. So it may take several rounds of doing that with a bunch of different people before you find a competent therapist who is also not dangerous for you as an individual. And there's no shortcut on this. I wish there was. There are so many shortcuts in life, and this is not one of them.
Yeah.
And what I have experienced is many people tell me, well, I went to a therapist once and it was a terrible experience. It's like, yeah, because it sounds like you weren't actually ready to do the work of finding a professional collaborator to get started on your healing journey with, to guide you. And if you're not mentally ready to do that, then it doesn't matter who you find, you're not going to have a good ride. So you need to be in that place, and no amount of other people telling you you need therapy is going to get you ready for the magic of good therapy.
Because there is something very magical about finding anyone that can help you get to this place. And like I said, if you're not dealing with clinical issues, there's nothing wrong with finding an anamkara, finding someone that you can just share everything with. I know a lot of issues in my life. There are a couple of people I can talk to about them, and we can work it out. They know enough about me and how I react to things. My track record, like friendships can do wonders, but sometimes you do need a professional. And I get really nervous talking about these issues because so many people get over into goop style quackery.
Yeah.
Of, no, you just need the jade egg.
Oh,
no, you don't. No.
I mean, I agree. Kegel muscles are vital, but they're not going to change your healing journey.
Yeah. There's something so Victorian.
Like continence is important. Yeah. Oh, I absolutely give you that. But it's not going to help you heal from trauma. It's just muscles, baby. It's just muscles. It's just a pretty jade egg, okay? It is not the life-changing egg.
Because it is.
I say that as somebody who literally has a collection of eggs. I have all of these gorgeous rock eggs.
Me too.
That people have given me as gifts. I love them. I literally have bought baskets, these special metal baskets that can actually hold the weight of these. And I love them. I think they're beautiful. Why y'all sticking those things up there? But anyway, I say that as somebody who's been practicing Kegel since I was a little kid. Because
just be very mindful of anyone who has a panacea.
There's no one thing that can help all people, because we are diverse enough as human beings. It's important to hear a lot of options and to intuitively explore what, kind of rings a soft bell inside you of well, maybe I should try to explore this. I personally love art therapy. I have found art therapy to be very helpful because head-on talk therapy is too intense for me often. And a good therapist will not force you to do talk therapy. If you would rather just give up the will to live and die, as I once told one therapist, they're like, why don't you ever want to talk to me when we're here? And I'm like, because when we do, I wish to no longer like exist. It's just too intense. There's too many feelings all at once. My whole body is on fire. I hate it, and I never want to see your face again. And they were like, well,
Well,
you've given me a lot to think about. I literally told them this in the last 3 minutes of therapy that day. And they're like, you've given me much to think about. And I'm like, do you mean thank you? Because she did that to me the previous session and it pissed me off. So do you mean thank you? But my point simply being, it is a balance between listening to the outside world and listening to your inside world. Seriously, talk to a professional about your problems and not places to just do self-help. Yeah.
Yeah.
I am very upset that so much of our modern society has these toxic ideas of if you go to a therapist, you are irreparably broken, versus how about you're just paying a trained professional to tell you what about your thoughts are toxic and what about your thoughts are functional. How about just that? Like, it's literally going up on the mountain and paying the little wise person on top of the mountain going, hey, thank you for your time. You're doing that to a certain degree. There's nothing wrong with that.
I have the good fortune of having, I think, one of the best relationships with Catholicism that a lot of people had. I converted as an adult, and I had the good graces of knowing Father Hugh. And Father Hugh had been a priest since shortly after Jesus was crucified. I mean, I believe by the time he died, he had been a priest for 82 years. Like he got into the priesthood young, and like it was his thing. And he really was that person who saw confession as being able to talk through issues more than just tell me everything you did bad. I'm going to give you a list of things, here are the prayers that you say, and go on your way. And I remember me running into him after certain events in life and him just looking at me and going, get in the box.
Get in the box.
Just get in the box. I'm like, what? Get in the box. Okay.
What could go wrong?
And we go in there, and like he could read in my face, like something was really bothering me. And that one-on-one conversation would have been awkward and hard if I was seeing reaction, if I was seeing physical reactions, and having that screen, having that blockage where I couldn't see his reactions. I was able to tell him things, and he would help work through things. And I think a lot of these rituals that have come down to us today, like that's a lot of what original intent was for them, was to be a place where you would go into the box and talk to the priest about your problems. Because you can't tell if they're judging you or not. You can't see their face, And if you have someone who actually cares, like Father Hugh, the one thing I can say about him is he really cared about everyone there and was wanting us to be the best us we could be. Like whoever you were, he wanted you to be the best that. And I don't think a lot of people have access to that. And that's what therapy is. It's the secularization of this thing that you may have had with, like when I was studying with the lamas, that's kind of the role the lama had. Like he would see you meditating and being a little agitated and would be like, come off to the side. And you'd go over into the side room and he'd be like, what's wrong? What's going on? Why are you not able to focus? What's going on in here? And would talk you through, because that is literally their job. Is I'm here to teach you mindfulness. Something is blocking your mindfulness. Let's find what that is and help you get through it. Something's blocking you from, doing the compassions, whatever the thing was that you were there for that day. And we've lost connection to a lot of that. And that's what we have secularized into psychiatry. And I love this, that we are talking more in this flow language lately, because one, I'm not talking about being in the flow state. of like everything's batting 100, batting 1,000, and everything's fine and everything's wonderful, and I'm just firing on all cylinders. Because yes, I would love to say here's the secret to that. I think for a lot of us, given the events of the last several years leading into the pandemic and through it, are just looking for a place to be able to tube down the river without getting tangled in the roots. Like I think we need to just go back to basics a little bit more and just find a way to just get into the river, just get into the flow. Like we can find a way to get into the channels and into the deep water and just like find that energy. But if we're not even near the river, we're not going to get there. And I think this is once you, and this is how can I say this? This is why at the beginning we talked about musicals, because if you don't know the state we're talking about, these songs that we brought up at the beginning, ask yourself what that's doing in your body when you listen to them. What are you feeling inside? That's your body trying to feel like it's in the flow state, because that's what the song is telling your body. Hey, we're in this state. And your body likes to mirror. Those mirror neurons are firing and going, yes, I will be in this state. And it's trying to fire all the engines. And you can kind of feel that in yourself. Once you can become proficient in what that sensation is, what does it feel like to be in the flow, connected, firing on all cylinders, just really moving. One of the things that I have used my mindfulness practice to be able to do is to really feel out those edges. Am I drifting? Where am I feeling the flow? Where am I feeling? Am I feeling like I'm being pulled, tossed, and turned? Am I feeling like I'm tubing down the river and starting to spin around? Like how am I experiencing my life right now? And really, because I'm a very imaginative, like imagery is the way I comprehend the world. And so trying to imagine what state would I be in? Am I just lazy floating along and everything's good? Am I like, I got into one of the nice soft pools and there's no water pushing me through. I need to swim through a little bit to get back over to the place where the river will pick up and push me on. And really starting to feel that in myself. Am I slowing down? Am I losing interest in things? If so, why? Always ask why. Why is such an underutilized question that we make fun of people and say they're being childlike when they ask it. But why is such a vitally important question? Why am I feeling like this? Why am I getting tired of doing the things that I want to be doing or that I am doing? Why am I tired of having, even if it's as simple as why, when I made the thing that I usually like for dinner, did I sigh before making it or sigh before eating it? That's feeling that you're not quite where you need to be. What is it? What made you do that? How can you keep yourself from getting there? Is it a cheat day? Did you need to put just a little cheese on it? Because I know not everybody's me, but for a lot of things, you can just put a little cheese on it and everything will be better. You know, what is it that will keep you motivated? Because I think a lot of the self-help industry has ruined the idea of motivation, which is kind of what we're talking about when we're talking about flow, of being in this flow and being connected to these vital forces of life. Because when I'm connected, I get up and I want to do things. I may want to do specific things, but if I don't have something specific I want to do, that's motivation. That's all motivation is wanting to do a thing. And we have, through the self-help industry, turned motivation into a self-bribery scheme where we're always telling ourselves, I am doing this for that bottle of wine that I have in my reward chest that I said I could only have when I finished the book. That game that I said that I would let myself buy if and when I hit this certain thing. And I'm not saying that rewards are bad. Rewards can be very, very, very helpful. But if your only motivation in moving forward is to get these reward boxes that you set up for yourself, you're out of the flow. You're masking being out of the flow by, well, yeah, I really want the wine. Well, if you really want the wine, but you don't want to write the story, why are you writing the story? What is so important about writing the story that you're willing to suffer through it to get the thing that you actually want?
Why to say that you did it? So the issue with the reward is we reward children with extrinsic motivation, means outside motivation outside of their self, to teach them intrinsic motivation or internal motivation.
Yeah.
And it's kind of an interesting duality there. So if you get an A on your test, I'll give you a pretty pencil, your choice. So that eventually you will appreciate the fact that you got an A on your test, period. Versus, well, why do you need an A on your test? Because it shows that you have full mastery of this, whatever is testing, whatever this knowledge is, that you're able to fully use this knowledge on the test. And that's actually the real desire there that you need to have, that you as a child do not have. And so we're going to give you little pretties, little delights.
All them gold stars.
Right, to bridge you over till you actually are proud of yourself for learning things. Even though I would like to point out children are proud of themselves for learning things that are actually useful in their lives. So they're proud of themselves for learning how to tie their own shoes. So that means they can go outside when they want to, because they can put on the shoes and be like, I'm ready, open the door. That the things that are actually useful to children, such as, for instance, my father taught me how to scramble eggs when I was 6 years old, standing on a chair in front of the stove, so that when I'd wake up on Saturday mornings, I would know how to make my own food, and I would leave him and my mother to sleep. And I liked it because it meant I could feed myself, and I didn't need to wait for adults who, frankly, in my opinion at the time, had terrible opinions, and I still think that. They just, like, what? They finally get up. What do they want? Oh, don't you want a toasted peanut butter and jelly sandwich? No, I want scrambled eggs. I literally woke you up and told you I want scrambled eggs, and then you have given me a toasted peanut butter sandwich. What is this slop?
Oh, I feel this in the bones. Yes.
So, but I have found, see, I grew up thinking like everybody was like, oh, well, you have to treat children this way because that's the only way to teach them anything. And then I grew up and I got a degree in education, and they let me work with children without a chaperone. And I tried out all sorts of things, and I found out you really do not have to give children treats for them to be willing to learn a new skill or anything, or be taught, be willing to listen to you as you teach them something. If you first just explain why this is important. And it can be a far off goal. Like, I'm teaching you this kind of math. You need to know how to divide, because how will you ever be able to divide food fairly among your friends and family without there being a fight? I am trying to teach you how to do this. It is important to learn how to divide so you can, like, divvy up, say, if you won money as a team, and you need to divvy up the money evenly among all the team members. So again, there are no fights. I am teaching you how to divide because you will use division again and again for the rest of your life. This really does matter. So take my word on it. I use division every day as an adult. You will need it as well. And I want you to be fully prepared as an adult. That is literally all I had to explain to 8-year-olds. 8 and 9-year-olds from there go, oh, Miss Fink, why has nobody explained this to me? I just thought that y'all just were trying to keep us something to do every day.
Right?
Like, what? My little baby Rashad, God bless him, 8.5 years old. He's like, we really just all thought, Miss Fink, that it was just, this is how adults were keeping us busy every day, was to teach us this stuff. Like, it just seemed worthless. And I was like, Rashad, no, this is what I need you to know this so that you can take care of yourself and your children and any other people who need taking care of when you are an adult. And he's like, nobody has explained, Miss Fink, this is my 3rd year at school, and not a single person has explained this to me. And I was like, Rashad, all I can do is apologize for all the other adults in your life. I don't know what to tell you. Now, did I still give them rewards on Fridays? Well, heck yeah, everybody gets prizes, okay? Like, just, yes, because I'm Miss Fink, and I love to give children treats, okay? And, like, I have to have a reason, otherwise, it's considered suspicious. A modern society sucks. Like, why can't I just give children candy when I want to, okay? Like, I just want to slip children candy and go, shh. And just, but, that's called grooming,
It's being a good BB.
I know.
But yeah, I remember the first time I had a teacher explain to me why we studied history. We were currently studying the Spanish-American War, and I'm old, y'all. So this was in the lead up to the first Iraq War. And he sat us down, and we watched a news clip, and then watched a little video about what we were studying, and was like, history often rhymes. If you know what has happened before, you're better at understanding what's going on now and what might be happening down the road. And we basically watched a redux of the Spanish-American War happen in the first Iraq War, where there was a lot of propaganda. There were a lot of lies about why we should get involved. It really was a very good example of history repeating itself.
Yes.
And that gives you this intrinsic motivation to study history of, it makes you look like a genius because you understand the future. You can see the future because you can read it from the past.
Also, when things happen, you will feel more comfortable in being able to predict what is more than likely going to happen next. So again, here's what I posit. Here is why I told you that whole story about extrinsic versus intrinsic motivation and children and teaching. Here it goes. If the only reason you are doing something is for a reward, an extrinsic reward, maybe the activity is BS. Maybe it's absolute shite. Okay? So if the only reason you're writing the story is to be able to drink the bottle of wine, screw the story, drink the wine, figure out a better story that you actually want to write, that you would, because here's the thing. What would you be willing to do for free? What would you be willing to pay other people to be allowed to do, for you to be allowed to do? Okay? That is the stuff that you're really interested in. And that, more than likely, has real merit because somehow it speaks to you on a deep level and it requires no external reward. It requires nothing but your energy and attention. And if it's speaking to you that strongly, if it's practically singing a song to you, to come do me, let's do this thing together, whatever it is, whether it's climb rocks or write a short story or whitewater raft down the river, whatever it is, more than likely, it's also singing a song to others. So go out there and do it and share your knowledge and experience with others. But if the only reason you are doing things is because of rewards, like the only reason you get out of bed every day and brush your teeth is because of the reward of chocolate at the end of the day, honey, we need to talk about why you don't want to brush your teeth. Is it because you feel you're not worth it? Is it because you hate the sensation of brushing your teeth? If you know why, you can then address the core problem. Like, well, it may be that you need a different kind of toothbrushing device. I know one person who absolutely hated toothbrushes, like she hated the sensation in her mouth, and she got herself a water pick, approved by her dentist. And that's what she used instead of a traditional toothbrush. And as she put it, quote, it changed her life. And it also made her dentist very happy because she found it a sensory overload issue. But if you're just still like just rewarding yourself rather than dealing with, why don't I have any internal motivation for this? You're never going to get to the core of, why are you miserable as hell? You're miserable. Baby, that is not normal. Not even in an apocalypse. That is not normal.
Yeah.
Let me tell you how hard you laugh in an apocalypse. Oh, everything's even funnier because everything is more intense. So that means the comedy is more intense as well. And so if you are having to reward yourself for every tiny thing, it is time to address what is at the core of the problems. Why are you not experiencing internal motivation? And it may be a chronic illness issue. It may be a psychology issue that you really do need a licensed therapist to help you unravel in a safe space so that you don't end up, triggering yourself to the point that you are a danger to yourself or others. But whatever it is, you need to get to the place in your life where you feel the majority of your motivation is internal. Because again, if it's all external, you are in the dry place. And you need to get to the flow. Because the flow is what the universe is actually made of.
Yep.
The universe is entirely made of currents, of energy moving from A to B to C to, triple D, whatever. Like, that is what the universe actually is. Fight me on this one. I will die on this hill. I know enough about quantum mechanics.
Yep.
I will die on this hill. This is what the universe actually is made of, is energy. It is the flow of things from less to more to less, all of that. And we are part of the universe, so we are part of that.
Yep.
If you interrupt the flow, you are doing real evil in the universe because that is all the universe cares about. Good is flow, and no flow is bad. That is literally the simplicity of the universe. So, why do you feel like you live in evil? What are you doing? You have gone off course, my sweet babies. You are a boulder in a river. Why? Why are you not part of the river? Why have you become the boulder?
And that's really one of the reasons I wanted us to talk about this topic this season is we spend a lot of time talking about refilling the well. And I know this from certain aspects of my life that I do thoroughly 100% mindlessly enjoy. That there is a vast underground river that is always flowing there that can be tapped into. Like, we can stay in there a lot more than we do. And when we're just looking at making sure that we're putting enough buckets of water into the well so that we can then take the buckets of water out of the well and not just diverting the river so that the river is flowing in and filling up the aquifer or just drilling a new well closer to the river to get it to the aquifer. It's going to be
make an irrigation ditch. That would be weird.
Yeah, it can be very problematic. And this image of greening is something that I have found very powerful in my life because, yeah, you can kind of feel when your life gets a little dry, a little stale. It doesn't have the flexibility that it should. Everything feels a little brittle. And so this analogy works really, really well for me in seeing when I am on and off course. So I hope it does that for y'all as well. And I hope that you enjoyed this episode. We are delving into deep stuff this spring.
Mm-hmm.
Deep stuff. And I hope that you are along for the ride. The next episode that we are going to be doing is going to be fun. We're going to be talking.
Took a deep inhalation and sigh because
yeah,
is that what fun sounds like?
We're going to be talking about healing and growing through the scar tissue. we all get wounded in our life. We all have scars that have healed over, but there are things that we can do both with
Well,
our
we can do
physical
that.
scars and with those on the inside of us. They keep them from getting rigid. They can keep them having a bit of flexibility so that we don't just build a carapace around ourselves.
To keep a metaphor going, this conversation is about how to remove the festering, the wound that festers.
Mm-hmm.
This is releasing the pus. I'm so sorry to use that word, it's gross. But to release that built up antibiotics or the immune system's cells trying to deal with it and hoarding that's buildup of it, to flush it out so it can actually form a seam, the wound can heal over. And then what to do once the wound is healed over? Next week on Creation's Path.
Oh, we really need to get get a sound clip of the next week on Creation's Paths. So hopefully you will join us for that. It will be a good time, but we're going to be talking about deep stuff yet again, and I hope that you enjoy this. Like I said, this weekend I am going to be leading a meditation for the CSIWE, the Creation Spirituality Interfaith Worship Experience, where we're going to be kind of on the similar topic by accident. We're going to be talking about the second principle of creation spirituality, which is panentheism, seeing God in all things and all things in the divine. And it sounds like it's going to be a really interesting talk, not just from me, but we have adopted a very emergent process in the way that we are discussing our topics. So everyone's bringing stuff to the table now. And I'm going to be starting us off with a meditation for pulling that energy up and into us to hopefully start feeling alive. So I'm really looking forward to doing the guided meditation this week. And you can find more information about that at cscommunities.org, which should be linked in the doobly-doo down below. You can also find Glory all over the internet as Glory Writes the Blues. I believe that's on every platform.
Well, Substack, it's my name, Glory Fink.
And I couldn't remember if you had started doing TikTok or not. So many people started doing TikToks.
I haven't actually started doing TikTok. We're doing shorts on YouTube instead first. So we'll see how that goes. So
definitely check her stuff out. If you like this, she does a show on Mondays because right now it's Creative Recharge is the show on a Monday. And if you enjoy this, but want it to be more pop culture adjacent.
Let's see, this is our 6th season of Creative Recharge, I think. And Monday, we are talking about the characterization of Harley Quinn. She is seen as a gateway character. A lot of non-traditional audience members, readers and viewers of Batman got into Batman, either Batman the Animated Series or the Batman comic books. They got into it through Harley Quinn specifically. And so we are going to examine what is it about Harley Quinn that is a gateway character that gets non-traditional audiences really pumped for the storylines. And they are so loyal to Harley Quinn, the character. So we're really going to do an analysis of Harley Quinn since she was actually created for Batman the Animated Series. She is not a traditional comic book character. She started off in a cartoon, in a kids show cartoon. So all the directors just ran with her because she is such a fun character. I know so many people who said, I've never liked comic books a day in my life. And now I have a permanent subscription to the Harley Quinn comics. And are there any other comics like that? And I'm just like, yeah, I did not see you as a comic book fan, but okay, let's find you other like her because she's just such an interesting character.
They're a little old, but my mind immediately went to the Lumberjane comics.
Yes. But yeah, things have improved in the comic book world as far as what is available, let alone, I would go with non-traditional, because Harley Quinn, while she's definitely written by more traditional writers of superheroes and supervillains, she's a little bit of none of the above.
Yep.
We do love her for that. So that's what we're actually going to talk about on Monday, but pretty much all of the season of Creative Recharge. We're going to talk about Terry Pratchett's movies. We're going to talk about Mel Brooks's movies because he's got a new movie coming out after all these years. We are going to talk about all sorts of exciting subjects. So, definitely on YouTube, it's Glory Writes the Blues. On Twitch, it's the same. And on Instagram, it's Glory Writes the Blues. On Twitter, Write the Blues. And on Substack, gloryfink.substack.
Alrighty. I think that's all that I need to say before we head off. I hope that everything...
I lurk everywhere.
Yes.
And yes, the Chaos Demon does
In
lurk
any
everywhere.
restaurant you're at, Brian may be lurking in the kitchen.
So as always, may light and love ever shine on everything that you do. And as always, we'll see you again next time. Bye.